Welcome back. In a moment, we'll discuss how activist movements can go global. But first, here are some other stories to keep an eye on. The former Israeli president, Shimon Peres, is in intensive care after suffering a stroke. He's said to be in a critical but stable condition. Mr. Peres, who's 93, served twice as the country's president between 2007 and 2014. A large fire has left hundreds of homes in a Sao Paulo favela destroyed. There have been no reported deaths after the fire quickly spread through the densely packed community. Favelas are home to many of Brazil's poorest residents. Michael Stephen Sanford, the 20-year-old British man who attempted to snatch a police officer's gun at a Donald Trump rally, has pleaded guilty to charges of illegal weapon possession and disorderly conduct. In a previous era, the shooting of Michael Brown, a young black man, by a white police officer in a small town in Missouri may not even have made news in some parts of America, let alone the world. But in our social media age, the incident became the spark for a global protest, and the social media hashtag Black Lives Matter, born out of the Trayvon Martin case a year earlier, started trending worldwide. That campaign now has branches in other countries, including the UK. But questions are being asked about how much it's still relevant to the original campaign and the nature of modern activism. Insight's Sarah Firth has been investigating.
The Black Lives Matter movement in the US, formed out of concern about police brutality in America, went global after the incident in Ferguson, Missouri, which saw 18-year-old Michael Brown shot dead by a white police officer.
They have sparked not only a national movement, but a global movement.
It's a movement that represents the concerns of millennials in the US, the UK and elsewhere, and has been fueled by social media footage like this.
He's covered. He killed my friend.
It's only because we have the technology of video, particularly through camera phones, that whites now are beginning to acknowledge that this thing we've been talking about for decades is real. I think many whites have been shocked over some of the videos that have been recorded of blacks being shot by police, blacks who were unarmed.
Facebook status changes and hashtags have abounded, and a recent survey in the US stated that 51% of whites between the ages of 18 and 30 now either strongly or somewhat support Black Lives Matter. But does all this so for activism actually affect any change?
Movements have no defined structure, and I think people have to accept the fact that concern can be engaged at whatever point that a person is comfortable. So if your comfort level is a hashtag on a social media site, that's fine. I think what's more important is that the conversation is elevated and that more people are discussing an issue. So I don't think we should get caught up in the legitimacy of levels of participation.
Over in the UK, and the Cousin movement, still in its infancy, hit the headlines by targeting a major transport hub. But as well as the travel chaos caused, one thing stood out. All the activists were white, and the issue they were raising was one of climate change. Renowned black activist Lee Jasper criticised the movement's use of all-white activists, tweeting that he thought it was cultural appropriation. What we saw take place at London City Airport was extremely confusing. You had all-white activists, you had an issue about climate change. A lot of people were really confused about that. Do you think that was a big mistake that was made?
They're not taking time enough to think about and select their targets properly. I think that their civil disobedience strategy is absolutely right. But in order for it to resonate with communities as being a target that is meaningful, then they have to come and sit with communities, they have to understand communities rather than plucking these targets at random.
Lee, explain for us a bit about what Black Lives Matter in the UK is about as a movement, because it's extremely confusing and a lot of people are looking at this and saying, look, we understand what's going on in the US. We're seeing a lot of the videos that are coming out, the shocking deaths of young black men at the hands of the police. But that's simply not taking place here in the UK. That's not what's happening. And so it's a little bit more difficult to understand what this movement's about here.
So let's be clear. If you add up the totality of statutory deaths of black people in mental health hospitals, in deportation, in asylum removal centres, in hospitals, in prisons, in youth establishments, then you begin to see the totality of the figure and the impact upon black communities. So yes, they're not all getting shot as they are in America, but that doesn't mean that institutionalised racism doesn't come at the cost of individuals' lives.
The UK Ministry of Justice is currently investigating police and the court's treatment of ethnic minorities, and the findings will be released next spring.
So there's a lot of misconception about British racism. Because it's Bill Hite, because people are generally not overtly racist in the sort of crude way that you see on the street, people think that, you know, we're living in a sort of post-racist Disneyland. We're not. Racism is increasing, racial inequality is increasing, and violence associated with the poverty, whether it's through racist police officers, whether it's through drug gangs who are forming because they can't get regular employment.
Black Lives Matter is now a global movement with support from many different communities. And as long as young black men keep getting shot by white police officers in America, while stop and searches disproportionately target young black men in the UK, and in a social media age where a story of injustice can go around the world in a matter of minutes, this rapidly growing movement will keep demanding attention. Sarah Firth, reporting for Insight.
Well, to discuss that further, I'm joined now by Zoe Cairns, who's a social media trainer. Zoe, does it matter that this whole structure of these causes is somewhat chaotic? I mean, I could do something on behalf of Black Lives Matter. Nobody's asking me to do it. There's no campaign strategy officially laid out, is there?
No, anyone can go online and start voicing their opinion and starting these campaigns, because we're getting so much reach and exposure now via social media. So whether we can really increase that reach, you know, the amount of people that are seeing it, we can all individually create our own campaigns. So,
Black Lives Matter, does that hashtag stand for anything?
Or, you know, there's a massive, there's a website with all the information about it. Anyone can use that hashtag. Anyone can jump on the end of that hashtag and create their own mini campaign from that. You know, no one owns a hashtag. It's pretty much we can create our own campaign and jump onto the end of it.
But in terms of the efficacy of making that issue, that cause, more widely debated, if it becomes a bit fuzzy or chaotic, or subsets of people actually mean something different by using that, then no one message is getting through, is it?
It's not. It's a mixture of messages. There's lots of different messages out there behind one different campaign. And this is where, you know, strategies for campaigns are really important. You know, what are we trying to achieve? What is our end goal for the campaign? Most campaigns, you know, end up going out there and they don't even have a finish to them, because they end up going out there, become so wide, the wide reach of it, that actually that people don't actually get to finish that campaign or have the results that they ultimately wanted to find.
It's difficult to compute, I suppose, and actually see the return on the investment, isn't it? But let's think about other issues. I mean, for example, there was a campaign about gay rights or issues around sexuality.
Yeah.
Why don't you turn your photograph on Facebook or on Twitter to a multicoloured photograph? All right, if I do that, it probably takes about 2 clicks at the most. Maybe download the photograph tuning thing and do it. Does that make me a good person? Does that mean I believe in that cause?
Well, with Facebook make it so easy for us to change our profile when a different campaign comes up. And if people see that other people are doing it, they want to follow the crowd, so they're then changing their profile. They might not actually know what the campaign's about or the story behind it, but like Ice Bucket Challenge, you know, everyone thought it was a bit of fun, you know, putting a bucket of water over someone. They can...
You mean people who did that, they'd even go to the bother of pouring water over them, and they still wouldn't know about the ALS or the disease or the condition or how to treat it or anything else?
I strongly believe that, Martin. I believe that some people might not have known the story behind, and that's where then bad press come out about, you know, the story behind the Ice Bucket Challenge, and some people actually held back from not taking part in the challenge.
Right, so it did raise an awful lot of money, almost by accident, would you say?
I'm not too sure whether by accident. The people that did know about it helped to really build an awareness and raise money. However, some people might have got mixed up into that, drawn into what the crowd was doing, keeping up with the Joneses online and trying to make sure you're in with what everyone else is doing.
People really that shallow?
I believe that they are. There are some people out there that will get involved because everyone else is getting involved.
And they are more likely, I suppose, to be shallow or spontaneous in that online world, when it is simply a click of the thumb.
It's just click. It's very easy for people to do. It's very easy when we go on social media and we look at our timelines. If you've got celebrities involved within a campaign, more people will get involved because it's the credibility from those influencers, those celebrities, that we want to follow that campaign.
Michelle Obama and the girls, she held the thing up,
Yeah.
did absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
I would venture to suggest those girls.
There's still some that are still not found, in that campaign. There should be some measurement in there, and there probably is from that campaign. What do we actually achieve from it? I mean,
So, what is a good campaign then? So I'm thinking, is it possible? Surely it is still random whether an issue really catches on and gets a mass movement behind it or becomes popular, or is there a science behind it now?
The social media campaigns are all great in when we put them out there, because the biggest thing that we want from social media campaigns is building awareness, which is bring back the girls, Black Lives Matter. All of these are building awareness with people that we really want to get in front of and really share that awareness. It's so much more faster for us to get our message out there. However, the reason why campaigns then become very short-lived, that people then go on to the next thing, is that social media is changing, and
even those with a conscience are fickle.
Yeah. There's science behind it that, the algorithms on Facebook and Twitter are changing. It means more people, if they don't engage as much with a campaign, something else comes in and gets in front of people more.
Zoe Cairns, thank you for your expertise.
No problem.
Now, let's end with our Insight Bite. This is just a little something that we think you should know. Today, it's all to do with polar bears. More than 10 of them have trapped a group of researchers in a Russian weather station in the Arctic, and it could be at least a month before help arrives. Scientists there say they've run out of flares used to deter the predators, and a female bear now sleeps beneath the windows of the compound. One of the group's 2 dogs has been caught and eaten. Now, the station is on the small island of Troynoy in the Izvesty Sikh archipelago. A Russian ship is being sent to the island, but it's unlikely to arrive before November. But the ship may not be needed. As winter freezes the surrounding waters, the bears are expected to seek food elsewhere. And that's all for now. I'm Martin Stanford. That was Insight.